The Park Royal Hotel was the kind of place where the air smelled like money and desperation, two scents that mingled together so seamlessly that you couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. I had been working there for 3 years, a single father trying to keep his head above water in a city that had no mercy for people like me. My name is Marcus Webb, and I was a waiter. Not a sommelier, not a maitre d', just a waiter, the invisible man in the black vest who refilled water glasses and pretended not to hear the whispered secrets of the wealthy. The private dining room on the fourth floor was reserved for the kind of people who didn't make reservations. They made demands. Tonight, it was Viktor Volkov, a Russian billionaire with a reputation for ruthlessness and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He was in town to close a deal, a $1 million acquisition that would make him even richer than he already was, which was saying something considering he could probably buy the entire Park Royal Hotel with the loose change in his pockets. I had been assigned to his table, a punishment from my manager, a weasel of a man named Gerald who took pleasure in making my life miserable. "You're good at being invisible, Webb," he had said, his thin lips curling into a smirk. "Volkov likes his staff invisible. Don't screw it up." I didn't plan on screwing it up. I never did. I needed this job. It paid for my daughter's medical treatments, the endless appointments and therapies that drained my bank account and my soul. My daughter Ellie was 8 years old, with big brown eyes and a smile that could break your heart. She had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease when she was 4, and every day was a battle. Every day was a fight to keep her alive, to keep her smiling, to keep her believing that the world was a good place. I had to believe it too. I had no other choice. The private dining room was a masterpiece of understated luxury. Mahogany paneling, crystal chandeliers, a table that could seat 12 but was set for only 2. Volkov sat at the head of the table, a mountain of a man with cold blue eyes and a gray-streaked beard. Across from him sat his translator, a woman named Natalia. She was younger, maybe in her early 30s, with sharp features and dark hair pulled back into a severe bun. She had the look of a predator, the kind of woman who smiled with her mouth but not with her eyes. I had served them before, a few months ago, during a similar meeting. I remembered Natalia because she had snapped her fingers at me, a gesture of pure contempt that had made my blood boil. I had smiled, refilled her water, and retreated to the shadows where I belonged. Tonight there was a third person at the table, a nervous-looking man in a cheap suit who was clearly out of his depth. He was the seller, the owner of some tech startup that Volkov was trying to acquire. His name was Mr. Chen, and he was sweating through his shirt, his hands trembling as he shuffled through a stack of papers. "Mr. Chen is here to finalize the agreement," Natalia said, her voice smooth and professional. "He has brought the final contracts. We just need your signature, Mr. Volkov." Volkov grunted, his eyes scanning the documents with the cold detachment of a man who had seen 1,000 deals and trusted none of them. "I want to hear it from him," he said, his voice a low rumble. "In English. I want to hear him say it." Natalia translated, her Russian flowing effortlessly. Mr. Chen nodded, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. "Yes, yes," he said, his voice high-pitched and shaky. "The deal is good. The company is sound. I guarantee it." I was refilling Volkov's water glass when I heard it. Natalia's translation was flawless, but there was something off. She was not translating everything Mr. Chen was saying. I had spent 3 years in this hotel, serving hundreds of international guests. I had picked up phrases, words, the cadence of different languages. I was no expert, but I knew enough to know when something was being left out. Mr. Chen was talking about the financial projections, the quarterly earnings, the potential for growth. But Natalia was summarizing, glossing over details, omitting numbers. She was telling Volkov that the projections were strong, that the earnings were consistent, that the company was a sure thing. But Mr. Chen's tone was different. He was hesitant, uncertain. He kept glancing at Natalia as if seeking reassurance. I moved to the sideboard, pretending to arrange the silverware, but I was listening. My heart was pounding. I had seen con artists before, the smooth talkers who preyed on the wealthy and gullible. But this was different. This was a translator, a trusted intermediary lying to a billionaire. I waited for my moment. When Natalia stepped away to take a phone call, I approached the table under the guise of clearing the empty plates. Volkov was looking at his phone, his attention elsewhere. I leaned in close to Mr. Chen, my voice barely a whisper. "Mr. Chen," I said, "your translator, she is not telling him the truth." Mr. Chen looked up, his eyes wide with panic. What do you mean?" "She's leaving things out," I said, my voice urgent. "She's summarizing your numbers, making them sound better than they are. I don't know why, but you need to tell Mr. Volkov yourself. In English." Mr. Chen's face went pale. "I can't," he whispered. "My English is not good enough. I make mistakes. She said she would help me." "She's helping herself," I said, my voice hard. "She's helping someone, and it's not you." Volkov looked up, his eyes narrowing. "What is this?" he demanded. "What are you saying?" I froze. I had overstepped. I had broken the cardinal rule of service. Be invisible, be silent, be nothing. I expected to be fired, to be escorted out of the hotel by security, to lose everything I had worked so hard to hold on to. But Volkov was staring at me, his cold blue eyes boring into mine. "You," he said, his voice a low growl. "You were speaking to him. What did you say?" I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I told Mr. Chen that his translator was not being honest with you," I said, my voice trembling. "I heard her. She was omitting information. She was making the deal sound better than it is." Volkov's gaze shifted to Natalia, who had just returned from her phone call. Her face was a mask of innocence, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. "Mr. Volkov," she said, her voice smooth, "please ignore this man. He is a waiter. He doesn't know what he's talking about." "He knows enough to tell me you're lying," Volkov said, his voice cold as ice. "Explain yourself." Natalia's composure cracked. "I don't know what he's talking about," she said, her voice rising. "He's just a waiter. He's trying to cause trouble. He's probably jealous. He's jealous of you, of your success, of your money." "Shut up," Volkov said, his voice cutting through her rambling like a knife. "I didn't ask for your opinion. I asked for an explanation." Mr. Chen, emboldened by my intervention, spoke up. "Mr. Volkov," he said, his voice shaky but determined, "she was not telling you everything. The numbers are lower than I told her. The projections are not as strong. I wanted to tell you, but she said she would handle it. She said she would make it sound better." Volkov's eyes narrowed. "Is this true, Natalia?" Natalia's face was pale, her hands trembling. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice desperate. "I was trying to help. I was trying to make the deal go smoothly. I didn't want to upset you." "Upset me?" Volkov roared, slamming his fist on the table. "You were going to steal from me. You were going to make me pay millions for a company that is worth half that. Who are you working for? Who sent you?" Natalia's composure shattered. "No one sent me," she said, her voice breaking. "I was just trying to get a commission. Mr. Chen promised me a percentage if I helped him close the deal. I didn't think you'd find out. I didn't think anyone would notice." Volkov's face was a mask of fury. He turned to Mr. Chen, his voice a deadly whisper. "You were in on this." Mr. Chen looked like he was about to faint. "I didn't know," he said, his voice quivering. "I didn't know she was lying to you. I just wanted to sell my company. I needed the money. I was desperate." "Desperate," Volkov repeated, the word dripping with contempt. "Desperate men do desperate things, and desperate men pay the price." He turned to me, his expression unreadable. "You," he said, "you saved me from making a very expensive mistake. What is your name?" "Marcus," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Marcus Webb." "Marcus Webb," Volkov repeated, as if tasting the name. "You are a waiter, a nobody, and yet you saved me from losing millions. How do you know Russian?" "I don't," I said, my voice steadier now. "I just know when someone is lying. I've been a waiter for a long time. I've seen a lot of deals go down. I've seen a lot of liars." Volkov studied me for a long moment. Then he did something I didn't expect. He smiled. It was a cold, predatory smile, but a smile nonetheless. "Marcus Webb," he said, "I owe you a debt, a very large debt. I never forget a debt, and I always pay what I owe." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, my heart pounding, my mind racing. I had just done something reckless, something that could have cost me my job, my livelihood, everything I had worked for. But I had also done something right. I had saved a man from being scammed. I had done the right thing. Volkov turned to Natalia, his smile vanishing. "You will go to the police," he said, his voice hard as steel. "You will confess everything, and you will pay back every cent you have ever stolen from me. If you don't, I will make your life a living hell. Do you understand me?" Natalia nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Mr. Volkov, I understand." "Good," Volkov said. "Now get out of my sight." Natalia fled the room, her heels clicking frantically against the marble floor. Mr. Chen sat in his chair, his face ashen, his hands trembling. Volkov turned to him, his expression unreadable. "You," he said, "you are a fool, but you are a desperate fool, and desperate fools sometimes deserve a second chance. I will buy your company for half the price, and you will be grateful." Mr. Chen nodded, his voice choked with relief. "Thank you, Mr. Volkov, thank you." "Don't thank me," Volkov said. "Thank him," he gestured at me. "This waiter saved you, remember that." Mr. Chen looked at me, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Thank you." I nodded, not knowing what to say. The whole thing was surreal. I was just a waiter. I was nobody. And yet I had just changed the course of $1 million deal. The next few weeks were a blur. I went back to my routine, serving tables, counting tips, trying to make ends meet. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. I was too afraid. I thought Volkov might change his mind, might decide I was more trouble than I was worth. I thought I might lose my job. But then one evening Gerald called me into his office. His face was pale, his hands trembling. "You have a visitor," he said, his voice quivering. "In the lobby. He wants to see you." I walked into the lobby, my heart pounding. And there he was. Viktor Volkov, the billionaire, standing in the middle of the Park Royal Hotel, surrounded by his entourage. He was wearing a bespoke suit, his cold blue eyes scanning the room. "Marcus Webb," he said, his voice carrying across the lobby. "Come here." I walked over, my legs feeling like jelly. "Mr. Volkov," I said, "what are you doing here?" "I came to see you," he said. "I told you I never forget a debt, and I always pay what I owe." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. He handed it to me, his expression unreadable. I looked at the check, my eyes widening. It was for $1 million. I can't accept this," I said, my voice shaking. "It's too much." "It's not enough," Volkov said. "You saved me from losing millions. You saved my reputation. You saved me from looking like a fool. That is worth more than money, but it's all I have to give you." I stared at the check, my mind reeling. $1 million. It was more money than I had ever seen in my life. It was enough to pay for Ellie's treatments, to buy a house, to give her the life she deserved. It was everything I had ever dreamed of. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" Volkov looked at me, his cold blue eyes softening. "Because you reminded me that there are still good people in the world," he said. "You didn't have to help me. You had nothing to gain. You risked everything. You did it because it was the right thing to do. That is rare, Marcus. That is very rare." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, holding the check, my eyes filled with tears. "Take the money," Volkov said. "Use it to take care of your family. Use it to build a life. And remember, Marcus Webb, that you are not invisible. You are not nothing. You are a man who made a difference." And then he was gone, walking out of the lobby with his entourage, leaving me standing there, holding a check that would change my life forever. The months that followed were a whirlwind. I quit my job at the Park Royal Hotel. I paid off Ellie's medical bills. I bought a small house in the suburbs, a place with a garden and a swing set. I started a small business, a catering company that specialized in serving wealthy clients. I used the connections I had made as a waiter, the network of rich and powerful people who had seen me, who had noticed me, who had remembered me. Ellie's health improved. She started going to school again, making friends, laughing. She was a different child. A child who had been given a second chance. And I was a different man, a man who had been given a second chance. But the story doesn't end there. A year later, I was sitting in my office, going over the books when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered it, my heart pounding. "Marcus Webb," a voice said. It was Victor Volkov. "I have another job for you." "Another job," I repeated, confused. "I thought you were done with me." "I thought so too," he said. "But then I realized something. I have many employees. I have many people who work for me, but I don't have anyone I can trust, anyone who is not afraid to tell me the truth. I need someone like that, Marcus. Someone who sees what others don't. Someone who is not afraid to speak up." "What are you asking me?" I said. "I'm asking you to come work for me," he said. "Not as a waiter, as my personal advisor. I need someone who can see through the lies, someone who can read people, someone who can protect me from the scammers and the con artists. I need you, Marcus." I sat there staring at the phone. $1 million was one thing, but this was different. This was a chance to do something meaningful, to use the skills I had learned as a waiter, the ability to read people, to see through the facades. This was a chance to be more than just a nobody. "When do I start?" I said. "Tomorrow," Volkov said. "And Marcus?" "Yes. Thank you for everything." And so the waiter became the advisor. The invisible man became the one who saw everything. I traveled the world with Victor Volkov, attending meetings, negotiating deals, exposing liars. I became his eyes and ears, his trusted confidant. I saved him from countless scams, countless betrayals, countless attempts to steal his fortune. I had gone from being a nobody to being someone, and I had done it by doing the right thing, by speaking up, by refusing to stay invisible. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. It was 5 years later, and I was sitting in Victor's private jet, flying over the Pacific Ocean. Ellie was with me, now a teenager, healthy and happy. She was going to college next year, and I had never been prouder. Victor was sitting across from me, his cold blue eyes warm and kind. He had become a friend, a mentor, a father figure. He had given me a life I had never dreamed possible. "Marcus," he said, "I have something to tell you." "What is it?" I said. "I'm retiring," he said. "I'm handing over the reins of my company, and I want you to take over." I stared at him, my mind reeling. "What, me? I'm just a waiter, I'm nobody." "You were a waiter," Victor said, "but you are nobody. You are a man who saved a billionaire. You are a man who saved a company. You are a man who saved my reputation. You are a man who has been by my side for 5 years, protecting me from every threat. You are not nobody, Marcus. You are the most important person in my life." I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, my eyes filled with tears. "Take the job," Victor said. "Make me proud." And I did. I took over the company. I built it into something even bigger than Victor had imagined. I became a billionaire, a success story that was written about in magazines and newspapers. But I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot the Park Royal Hotel, the private dining room, the moment I decided to speak up. And I never forgot the lesson I learned that night, that no one is invisible, that everyone has a voice, and that sometimes the most unlikely person can change everything. Ellie graduated from college with honors. She became a doctor, dedicating her life to helping children with autoimmune diseases. She was my greatest pride, my greatest joy. And I, Marcus Webb, the poor single-dad waiter, had become something more. I had become a proof that the world works in mysterious ways, that kindness is never wasted, that honesty is always rewarded. The scam had been exposed, the liar had been caught, and the invisible man had become visible, a testament to the power of doing the right thing. The plane touched down, and I looked out the window at the sprawling city below. My city, my life, my story. It had all started with a simple act of courage, a whisper in a private dining room, a choice to speak up, a choice to be seen. And now I was ready to pass it on, to teach others the lesson I had learned, to show the world that no one is invisible, that everyone has a voice, and that sometimes the most unlikely person can change everything. I walked off the plane with Victor, my hand on his shoulder. "Thank you," I said, "for everything." He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "No, Marcus," he said, "thank you for saving me, for proving that there are still good people in this world, for being the invisible man who was never really invisible at all." And I smiled back, my heart full, because I had proven them all wrong. The scammers, the liars, the people who thought I was nothing. I had proven that a poor single-dad waiter could save a billionaire. I had proven that one voice could change the world. And I would never, ever be invisible again.